a hallelujah in the presence of my enemies. I raise a hallelujah louder than the unbelief. I raise a hallelujah. My weapon is a melody. I raise a hallelujah. Heaven comes to fight for me.
Oh, I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, the King is alive. Yes, I am who you say I am. And you say I'm loved when I can't feel a thing. And you say I am strong when I think I am weak. And you say I am held when I am falling short. And when I don't belong, oh, you say I am yours. And I believe, oh, I believe what you say of me. Oh, I believe you say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. And you say I am strong when I think I am weak. And you say I am held when I am falling short. And when I don't belong, oh, you say I am yours. And I believe, oh, I believe what you say of me. Oh, I believe, oh, I believe, oh, yes, I believe what you say of me. Oh, I believe.
That worship team is set up of our Summit student ministries. You guys may be seated. My name is Ryan Grape. I've been working with this here group of Summit since all of them were born. It's been 20 years I've been working with this youth group, and not going to lie, I got a little teared up over there just watching this, and it's awesome to see our teens. I love it. I just want to take a few minutes and just tell you a little bit about what our teen ministry does, what we have to offer, and just tell you what we're all about. So some of the things that we do, we run Summit. And Summit is our Sunday morning during second service. If you're ever here during second service, you see a mass exodus of a bunch of students. And we have uncompromising Bible messages specifically tailored for teens. Give you an example. We did a survey a couple weeks back, and they could ask any questions and just ask what they're dealing with. And one of the teens anonymously put the question, is depression a sin? Now, I had a totally different message prepared for the following week, but that week we took and dug through and looked up everything Scripture said about that and presented that the next week specifically for what they're going through in life. On Wednesday evenings, we've got Ledge. We've got a time where we have a full worship band, or we have a mixer team that has games and prizes. We have another message, and then we break up into some small groups, and they have a time to just sit down and intimately talk through with their small group leader about what's going on in life, and talk about the message, talk about some things that they're dealing with in real life. We do a reverb every single year. We've taken, for the last several years, over 100 students, and the idea is that they can bring their unsaved friends to a fun event. It is all night. It is what the leaders love to do every single year. But we do this so that the gospel can be brought to these students' friends. This past year, we took, in collaboration with North Star, Pastor John took our teens to the Word of Life Snow Camp, a weekend where they can get away and just sit and focus on growth. We've done book clubs. We've done just about everything you can name. One of the things we're doing this summer, we're going to Kingdom Bound. If you ever heard of that, it's an opportunity for the students to go and they hang out at Darien Lake. And then the evening, they've got some concerts that are held by the greatest artists, Christian artists in the world are coming here. There's actually 3 of them. The top 3 that are on the billboards right now are coming, and we're going to go see them this summer. And some has offset a lot of that cost for our students, so they have the opportunity to go and be involved in that. Just a fun activity and time to hang out with their friends and some of those type of things. So you may be asking, what does Summit do? That's just a short list of what we've done just in the past 6 months and have planned in the next few months coming up. So I just want to encourage you, if you have not been involved or know anything about Summit, we just want to give you an opportunity. After the service today, we're going to have our teen wing open up. just so you can have an opportunity to see what it's all about. We can see the setup. Most of you are going to walk in there and it's like, this is really weird. It's got lighting and music that I've never heard before in my life. But it's a good opportunity to see exactly where our students are being ministered to, and that's where the Bible is being brought to your students. And that's exciting for me, and I've loved working with these students, and it's been a lot of fun. If you've not had a chance to see, maybe hear what our students are doing, I want to direct your attention to the screens, and you'll see a little bit about some of what our students are going.
Flower City Work Camp is a camp where a bunch of different churches come together. We all come together to tell kids about Jesus. At least that's what we do on Sidewalk Club. And there's things like basketball camp, soccer camp, and work site, and they just go out and share the gospel to the city of Rochester.
So Flower City Work Camp is basically a camp that we go into the city and minister to children. We have sidewalk clubs, we have work site, and we also have basketball camp and soccer camp. God has taught me a lot at Flower City Work Camp. I found out a lot about myself and a lot about others. At the beginning of the week, I was kind of nervous to pray publicly, but I've gotten more comfortable. And I think one of the biggest tips for me and one of the biggest things I've learned is just to get pushed out of your comfort zone.
Hi, my name is Olivia, and God answered my prayers by giving me the opportunity to lead a little girl to Christ today. So far, God has answered every single prayer even better than I could have imagined.
And then I was like, so do you want to accept Christ? Do you want Jesus to be your friend and Jesus to be in your heart? And she said, yeah. And then she goes, okay, I want to pray now. And I was like, okay, want to repeat after me? She was like, no, I want to do it. She was just like, God, I want you. And she was only in 3rd grade. She was like, God, I want you. I want heaven, not hell. I want to be with you. I want to be your friend and all this stuff. And I was like, it was so awesome because you could totally tell that God had taken a hold of her heart.
I want to say thank you to my First Bible family for showing all the support and praying for us. I want to say thank you guys so much. You guys are awesome.
I'd like to give my thanks to all my family and friends for encouraging me to do Flower City Work Camp this year, and most importantly, I'd like to thank the Lord for helping me get the money together to be able to come here.
Thank you to everyone from First Bible who's been praying for everyone here. It was a great week.
Hey, my name is Wyatt. I was working on a house today, and thank you First Bible for praying for me.
Thank you First Bible for praying for us and everyone in Summit, and I want to thank Pastor John for always encouraging us and being there.
Thank you to all my First Biblers out there that prayed for me. I really appreciated it, and it really was helpful.
So don't let your heart be troubled.
Thank you. You may be seated. His name is Jesus. That's one of our favorite songs as a youth ministry. Ushers, if you would come forward, we want to take time just to, number one, we want to welcome our guests. If you are new with us here today, we are excited that you're here. This offering is not for you. This is for our regular attendees. But if you're new with us here today, we are excited that you chose to be with us here at First Bible. You have got our Summit team. This is our teen department kind of running the service today, as you'll see. And they have beautiful smiling faces, and they're helping us with ushering as well. Why don't we just take a moment to pray? If you are interested in giving today, we've got 3 ways to give. You can see those right on the screen. Father, we're thankful for the time you've given us. Thankful for the opportunity we have to be able to give and just be able to give to a ministry, Lord, that we know is serving you. Lord, bless this gifts, bless the givers, just allow the offering to be used for your honor and glory. In Jesus' name, amen. Please be seated while we've got a special song from our youth department.
Lifted up in my knees, Lord, it's all for
Good morning, church. Good to see everybody. This is going to be a long message, so I brought snacks, so I'll just hang on to these. I told Sean to ride the podium over here. You bailed. There you go. Yeah, right. Well, good to see everybody here this morning, and thank you so much for allowing the students to really kind of take the lead on this service. I have just so much enjoyed listening to them praise and hearing and seeing their heart for just ministry. I've been here for about 2 years now, and quite honestly, it's a pretty significant learning curve to come from a church where my student ministry was like 15 students to where I've got 30 leaders over students in this ministry. And quite honestly, one of the biggest parts of the learning curve moving here was really figuring out what it is that our students are all involved in. I mean, just from Awana to children's ministry to Summer's Best Days to Flower City Work Camp, you should be, as a body of believers, as parents, grandparents, and just members of our church congregation, really proud of our students for how much they pour into the lives of other people. Quite honestly, in a lot of ways, they really set a great example of what the ministry of Christ should look like in a church. And so I'm privileged to have a part in that and to have an opportunity to influence them. So several weeks ago, we began planning and talking about this student service, and we started calling it a student takeover service, and Vinny was like, I feel like that sounds a little aggressive, like you kind of forced yourself in here. And so I've been kind of, thinking about and praying about the message and all that. And it dawned on me last night. I was like, we should have totally ran with that. And we could have had a video where pastor and the pastoral staff are like tied to chairs. And then we're like, look, guys, we're going to have an offering. And if you ever want to see Pastor Kevin again, you're going to have, no, I'm just kidding. We wouldn't do that. But so this is not a takeover service. It was willingly and freely handed and offered to our students. I do want to encourage you, though, if you were one of our guests, please come back and hear our senior pastor. My name is John Spargo. I work with our students. And in case you haven't kind of pieced that together just yet, but please come back and hear Pastor Kevin. He is a great man of God, great communicator. He is a leader and a mentor to me, and I appreciate his leadership in this place. So I do want to encourage you to come back and hear him. John chapter 4 is where we're going to be this morning. We're going to look at several verses this morning. We're going to kind of work our way through this. So I'm not going to put all the text on the screens. So either, I guess, trust me that I'm reading it accurately, or hopefully you've got an app or you've got a paper copy of God's Word in your lap that you can kind of go by and just double check to make sure I'm not making stuff up, right? That's super, super important. And I want to say this too before we get started. I have been just intensely impressed with the heart for service by our students. I wanted to give you just a couple of examples. Recently, we had an event in our student room. It was, not messier than normal, but there's a lot of, there's Dorito crumbs and stuff everywhere. And I feel like I turned around and suddenly, at least one of our students, maybe more, but as far as I know, is really just on one. One of our students had cleaned up the whole thing. A fellowship of like close to 100 people had really just begun putting things away on their own without having to be asked. And then another testimony, and this was impactful. I think it was Ryan that came over. Is Ryan still, is he around? Anyway, I feel like he's the one that actually ran up to me and mentioned this to me. Dan Jalowic's one of our missionaries. He came in before he and his wife left to go back to Africa, and he was basically just sharing what God had laid on his heart in front of our students. And he used an illustration. I forget if he gave one of our students $10 or $20, something like this. Now keep in mind, this is a student that's just recently come to Christ. They've not been saved very long. And immediately after the meeting time was over, that student went back over to him and said, I can't take this money from you. He said, you're a missionary, you are trusting God to go into a foreign country. You need this money more than I do. And he gave that money back to Dan Jalowick. Look, I don't know about you, but if I was given $10 or $20 as a teenager, that money's going in the pocket, and it's going to be like it's spent before I even walk out the door, right? And so to see that heart behind our students, man, I love it so very much. John chapter 4, we'll pick up here in just a second. I'm not sure what it is about people, but we all go through this stage where we like dressing up in costumes. Hopefully none of our adults are like you're still in that, but man, my kids are like we started off with 2 huge Tupperware bins, and now one, it's spilled over. Now we've got 2. I mean, we got like dinosaurs, we got Power Rangers. I can remember when I was a kid, I went to Chuck E. Cheese for a birthday, and I came away with a purple ninja sword because everybody knows ninjas like they have purple ninja swords, right? Totally makes sense. So, and my friend and I went into the woods and we killed all kinds of imaginary bad guys all afternoon, pretending to be ninjas. And my kids love dressing up. Landon, I'll never forget, is one of my favorite, it's one of the highlights as a dad. We are getting ready to go to the grocery store, and Landon pops into the room, or into our van rather. He's in full Iron Man gear. He's like, so let's go grocery shopping. So yeah, just totally brought him grocery shopping. So you may have seen Iron Man at the Avengers movies, but I actually grocery shop with Iron Man. So I feel like I've got one up over you on that. But at some point, at least hopefully, the costume kind of comes down and the mask comes off, and the identity of who they really are, the genuine person, is revealed. And I want to challenge us a little bit this morning, if I can, because I think sometimes those of us that we name the name of Christ, we say that we're a believer in Christ, we call ourselves Christians, that life of ministry, that lifestyle of ministry, oftentimes we don't live like it's who we are. We put it on and take it off like it's a costume. And so it's almost like maybe even a light switch that here's a moment has presented itself, so I flip the switch on, and I got to do the Christian thing, right? And then now I'm at home with my family, so I flip it off, or I'm at work with my buddies, so I flip it off. And before we kind of dive in this morning, I want to ask you this question because I think we need to maybe look at our hearts, maybe even before we dive into Scripture this morning. I want to ask you a question. I want to maybe challenge you in your heart, and you need to answer this honestly. I mean, I can't answer it for you, but the question is this: is being a Christian really my core identity, or is it something that I do on occasion? And I'm not talking about whether or not you're saved for eternity or something, or your eternal security. I'm just talking about whether or not I live like a Christian. Is this a 24/7, all day, every day sort of thing for me? Or is this something that I just do sometimes? And at any rate, we're going to look at John 4, which many of you may know as the story of the woman at the well. And I know for some of us, we hear a mere mention of the story of the woman at the well. We're like, I'm going to close my Bible. I know this one. And I'm going to ask you not to do that because I think the Lord will reveal to you some things that are new. And one of the things that I've seen about this passage is kind of like ironic, really, because he's sitting at a well, and this passage is really just a well of wisdom. There is so much in here that we can take a look at. And so this passage is really one of the best examples that we can see where Jesus pours his life into the life of a stranger. And so as we begin, we need to really start with this foundation. I want to ask if we kind of maybe come together and agree with this, that if you're a Christian, if you're a Christ follower, you have a responsibility, not an option, but a responsibility to minister to the people around you. Would you agree with that? That as a Christian, that's kind of the starting point of where we're going to go this morning, right? So John 4 and verse 5, it says, "Then cometh he to a city of Samaria, which is called Sychar." This is Jesus, right? So he's near to the parcel of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Now Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, therefore, being wearied with his journey, sat thus on the well, and it was about the 6th hour. And there cometh the woman of Samaria to draw water, and Jesus said unto her, Give me to drink, for his disciples were gone away into the city to buy meat. Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, How is it that thou, being a Jew, askest drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. Now, although we're just a couple of verses in, John is really, in writing this, he's covered an awful lot of ground. He makes some assumptions, assuming a couple of things that the reader already understands and already knows. And the first of those things is this, that at some point in Jewish history, a section of the Jews intermingled and intermarried with people who were not Jews, who worshiped false gods. They were known for various kinds of evil. And so now you had the Jews and what the Jews would consider to be a half-breed individual or group of people that were called the Samaritans. And as a result of that, there's a very distinct, palatable, you can taste it in the air when you're near this area as a Jew, racial tension and social hatred because you're not a pure blood Jew. You've been infected by the blood of evil people is essentially how they kind of viewed this. And the author also assumes that we know the social stigma of women speaking alone with men. You see, in Jewish culture, that just simply didn't happen. It was considered inappropriate. It was considered offensive. And so here we have this woman who is met by who she only knows at this point as some man who's obviously Jewish, and he's asking me for some water. So in her mind, right at the outset of this account, the woman is asking herself, and she's asking out loud to Jesus, why exactly would we have this conversation? Like why would you speak to me? You're a Jewish male. You have quite literally no reason why you should talk to me at all, period. But what she did not know was how intentional this conversation actually was. She's thinking it's accidental. He's not paying attention. I mean, are you not noticing what's going on? That I'm obviously a woman and you're obviously a man and you're obviously a Jew and I'm not. Are like something wrong? You're not paying attention. But there's many hints here that what is about to take place is going to give us, I believe, some great application to what ministry life should look like, what the life of a believer really should look like. We see in verse 4, it says, he must needs go through Samaria. And then Jesus sits because he's tired and he's waiting for the disciples to bring back food. Now that may not seem like much, but I want you to think about it from just a certain perspective. So let's say you're at home and you're tired and hungry, and one of your family members says, we're going to go out to eat. We're going to go to a high-end restaurant, someplace like Taco Bell, right? That's Ebenezer here. That's authentic Mexican food to us, man. I don't know what to tell you. So they're wanting to go out to eat, and so you're hungry, right? You're tired. Does it make sense that you're going to get food quicker if you go with them or that you stay? Like if you're hungry and you're tired and you want to get food now, you're going to go. You're going to go with them, right? Because you're going to get fed quicker. But now Jesus is tired and he's hungry, but he sits by a well in the sun with full knowledge that he would be dealing with some things that were considered socially unacceptable. So he's putting off a meal in some sense. He's already tired. We're going to find out in a second. It's midday. The sun's beating down. And then he's having this conversation intentionally, willingly, right, on purpose, that is socially unacceptable. Listen, one of the things that I think we need to recognize is that ministry life, living the life that God intends us to live, it's inconvenient. There's a lot of inconvenience to it. There's very little that was convenient about what Jesus was doing here. He could continue into the city to get food. He could avoid an uncomfortable situation, but he didn't. And he refused to do it because he deemed the need of this woman greater than his own physical needs. His desire to help far outweighed his desire for comfort. And we live in a society where, like, life is so convenient, we don't even see the convenience anymore. You notice that? Like you try to explain to teenagers how convenient they have life, and it's like, well, you could get on your phone right now, and don't do it, but you could get on your phone right now and literally order food that arrives at our church door by the time from any restaurant in town. I know some of that may be news to you, but just trust me, right? Like you can do that with your phone, and that's unbelievable. And I don't even have to leave my home to visit a doctor. You guys, anybody ever engaged in that yet? Like you're sick and you can hop online and they'll basically Skype you and you're like, and they're like, yeah, your throat doesn't look good. You need, and I mean, they will give you a prescription right over the internet, right through, and you just go down the street. So the only trip you make is to the pharmacy. I mean, that's convenient, right? But I think in many ways we've convinced ourselves that us ministering to the needs of others is supposed to be convenient too. That it's supposed to be convenient and it's supposed to be comfortable. We even look at our calendar and we know, hey, I'm scheduled on this date during these hours to flip my switch into ministry mode. I've got this opportunity on my calendar where I'm going to live like Christ, man. This is when it's going to happen. And this is what I mean by ministry. It's simply that we're loving and we're meeting the needs of people around us. And we're doing it like Jesus did. Man, physical needs and emotional needs and spiritual needs. We have an understanding that that's why we exist, right? We kind of started off, we agreed with that at the outset. We agreed that that's why we're here. Here's what we have to grasp. When Jesus lived and he served, he did it throughout his day. There wasn't a set time with time off from him being who he was or what he was doing. He came to be a servant. And in this instance in particular, he knows some things about this young lady. He knows some things about this woman. He knows that she's hurt. And he knows that she has some significant pain in her life. You'll notice with me that he meets her about the 6th hour, which is basically noon. All right, so the sun it's directly overhead, it's beating down, but this is not typically when women went to a well. It was a social event, right? Like daily, actually, in either early morning or late in the evening when it was cool. And this is like it's the ancient equivalent of our water cooler conversations. That was where she would normally have been, hanging out with people in her community. Who's getting married, somebody having a baby, what's going on in this person's life. That was a normal, typical community conversation, but it was a conversation that this woman was not a part of. Instead, she made sure that she came to the well to draw water when nobody else would be present. She made sure that she could exit the city and hopefully make it up the hill, get her water, and go back and dive back into her home completely unnoticed. And maybe you'd say, well, I feel bad about that, but what does that have to do with me? And listen, you and I stand and sit in social situations all day long, every day of the week with people that are hurting, that are struggling, that are wrestling with things of the spirit, things of the soul. Some of you have an office coffee pot where people chat. You may have a break room, and then there's Wegmans and there's Walmart, right? There's places where people gather, people that are hurting. But I want to see the depth of this woman's hurt because it matters, and it mattered to Jesus. And what Jesus does, because again, it's a fantastic example as a model of how we compare, how we minister to what Jesus did in this passage. Jesus asks her for a drink, and then he engages her in a much deeper conversation than just about water. It says in verse 10, Jesus answered and said unto her, If thou knewest the gift of God, and who it is that saith to thee, Give me to drink, thou would have asked of him, and he would have given thee living water. Jesus answered and said to her, Whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again, but whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. And that's pretty neat, right? That's handy that somebody offer you some water and you'll never be thirsty again. And that's kind of where her mind goes, but he's not talking about earthly water. He's talking about a spiritual reality that Jesus Christ was God and he was there to meet needs in her life. Verse 15, it says, The woman saith unto him, Sir, give me this water that I thirst not, neither come hither to draw. And Jesus saith unto her, Go call thy husband and come thither. And the woman answered, said, I have no husband. Jesus answered and said unto her, Thou hast well said, I have no husband, for thou hast had 5 husbands, and he whom thou now hast is not thy husband. In that saidst thou truly. This is a little bit strange, right? That the subject changes so quickly, but Christ was doing something very deliberate and he was doing something very intentional. What in the world does her personal life have to do with water? Like, what's the connection there? Well, it was connected because every day this woman came to the well in brokenness. Her life was a mess. Her life was a disaster, and she knew it. Now, you may look at this and immediately think, well, she must be the gal who, all the women in town hid their husbands from her, right? She's morally loose. She's a seductress. Well, hang on just a second. Because women in Jesus' day couldn't divorce their husbands. It just didn't happen. Legally, it couldn't happen. Instead, the husband could divorce the woman, and he could actually divorce her on a whim. If you burned dinner, a man could legally seek divorce for that. So sure, the current relationship it's an immoral one. She's unmarried and she's sharing a bed with another man, but the previous 5, we don't know. Maybe a husband died. And a loss of a spouse, that's an incredibly painful thing to bear. Maybe she was unfaithful to a previous spouse. Maybe she was married to a man who never loved her. Can you imagine? Maybe a husband divorced her to be with another woman. Maybe she was used and she was cast out and she was abandoned. Whatever the details were of her story, Jesus knew it and knew that she was hurt, which is why he brought it up so that he could help. Because Jesus is going to communicate a point that the water that he's referring to is actually himself. And folks, ministry life is a compassionate living. It's seeing and recognizing and wanting to do something about the needs of the people that are around us. This woman says, verse 15, "Give me this water that I thirst not, neither come hither to draw." Do you understand what she's saying here? Give me this water so I don't have to come here anymore. So I don't have to be reminded every day by the time of day that I go get my water that I'm a failure as a spouse. Maybe even as a mom. Give me this water so I don't have to wait until midday to step out from my home and hurry along without being seen. I'm tired of the whispers behind my back. I'm tired of people pointing fingers. Nor come hither to draw. Please help me so I don't have to come here anymore. Man, we live in a broken world. I'm only 34 years old, and I'm paying attention, I will say, to society more than I have, and certainly when I was a teenager. I'm observing how the world is kind of playing out. And I keep looking at this world, and I don't know, maybe you disagree. I look at the news, and I see the world around me, and I go, man, we're not doing well. I mean, we're just not. We live in just, man, such brokenness, and brokenness resides firmly in every household. Not long ago, I had jury duty. So, jury duty it's as random can get, right? They're pulling people from all over Rochester, and I ended up on one of the first panels where they're asking questions. And one of the questions they want to know is, have you or someone that you're close to ever had an encounter with the law, whether you were a victim or you were the perpetrator, something you did or somebody else? And it was like every hand went up. Every hand. And so they have to go around, they have to ask. And I can remember there's a gentleman in front of me. He's talking about both of his daughters were driving while intoxicated, and they ran off the road and smashed into some property. And I could see the pain in his face, even from where I was sitting. One of the women next to me mentioned that she had a nephew that was murdered, and they did everything they could, but they've never found who did it. Woman kind of behind me and to my left gave testimony that she'd been raped before. And I'm sitting there going, man, we're not doing well. This is as random gets, and I felt like I'm in the middle of pain and hurting. And by the way, I had to raise my hand. I was like, man, I've got some things in my life that family members that I've been affected by. I was counseling a guy for a while that he was in rough shape. He was into drugs, and he'd been into drugs about as long as he could even remember. And he told me, he was riding in my car with me, and he told me that his mom, as he was growing up, never told him no, which by the way is like a student's dream, right? Like my parents never tell me no. But what was interesting to me, and he'd been in prison like the vast majority of his life. He had been in prison longer than he'd been out of prison almost at this point. He said, as a result of my mom never telling me no, I never felt like my mom loved me. Wow. Then he said this. He said, my mom, I can remember as a little boy. He's talking like 4 or 5 years old. He said, I can remember as a little boy, my mom used to shack up with guys in a hotel room, and I used to sleep under the sink. And man, I'm trying not to lose it and run off the road. Listen, people are broken. And they need compassion. And that means that your Christianity, it can't be a costume that I put on. When it's convenient, when it feels good, when the moment it just all comes together. It's got to be every day, all day. You and I sit by wells all the time where people pass us by in pain in their hearts and in their homes. But Jesus, man, he was intentional. He allowed himself to be inconvenienced because the heart and soul of a lost individual, man, it mattered to him. It was valuable. And let me say this too of compassion. Anytime Jesus had compassion on people, he did something. You look it up. It talks about him being moved with compassion, or it says he had compassion on the multitude, and then he does something. We've somehow convinced ourselves that compassion is like feeling bad. We'll pass somebody that's clearly homeless on the side of the road, and you're like, man, my heart of compassion just went out to that guy. Did you do anything? Well, no. Then you just felt bad. That's not what real compassion looks like. Real compassion moves a person. It says in verse 19, the woman said to him, "Sir, I perceive that you're a prophet." So some light bulbs begin to go on. This is not a normal person that she's talking to. Our fathers worshipped in this mountain, and you say that in Jerusalem is a place where men ought to worship. So now she drastically shifts the conversation to move the focus from her own life, undoubtedly because it made her uncomfortable. He starts mentioning husbands, she starts mentioning mountains. I mean, just not even really related at all. And maybe you're here this morning and maybe you've been coming to church, but you don't really buy into it yet. And maybe you like the part where, Jesus loves you and that God wants to bless your life, but as soon as a pastor or as soon as there's mention of sin, it's like, man, I get uncomfortable and I'm just not feeling that yet. So I want to say this, and I mean this sincerely in love. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable. The gospel is supposed to make you uncomfortable. See, because what God is doing is He's shining His divine light in the areas of your heart that He wants to change. And when you say yes to God, when you say yes to Christ and you believe on Him, He will change those things that now make you uncomfortable, and you will become what Scripture refers to as a new creation, that you will one day look back on that and go, I didn't even know who that person was. I don't even know who that person was. Like I look in the mirror and I'm like, man, I'm not the same person. So listen, that message of the cross, it's uncomfortable. That message that Jesus offered this woman was uncomfortable, but He's about to change her life. Verse 25, it says, the woman said unto him, I know that the Messiah cometh, which is called the Christ. And when He is come, He will tell us all things. Now, for sake of time, we didn't read the verses before where she gets into the mountain, but Jesus essentially says this, your religious system doesn't know what it's doing. And that's basically, you worship, you know not what. You don't know who you're worshiping. You don't know where you're supposed to do it. You don't really have any idea. And in response to what she's saying that she knows one day God is going to come down and fix everything that's broken. And what a beautiful response. In her ignorance, if we could say it that way, that Jesus goes, look, you barely know what you're doing. You're kind of hanging in there. And she goes, look, we just know the Messiah is coming and He's going to fix it. He'll tell us all things. He'll explain it. He'll bring answers to our brokenness and answers to my pain. Listen, we live in a world that is hurting, and even sadder than that hurt is the fact that the world has no idea why. They have no answers. Something's missing and nothing seems to fit. And even worse is that few realize that Jesus Christ is the answer. A man by the name of Jamie, you may have seen this in the news, was the first legally recognized non-binary. He transitioned from male to female and legally was the first recognized for doing so. Not too terribly long ago, he actually transitioned back. Just totally changed life, different, saying, you know what I was doing was it was wrong. And at the time, he recognized this, and you can look up the interviews. I'm not making this up. I'm not putting words in his mouth, but he was really blind to what was going on. But in an interview, he said this: the best thing that could have happened would have been for someone to order intensive therapy. He said, instead, the doctors just kept helping me harm myself. Did you catch that? For all the applause that I got by society, nobody helped me. I mean, that ought to break our hearts, that we've got so much pain, so much suffering, and so many junk answers that are just thin and blatantly untrue. We know society is a mess, but our solutions don't even make it better. We just cover up the hurt of what's really going on in our hearts, and we're convinced that we can fix things without God, and that thinking is just simply wrong. This woman's current remedy, she's hurting. You know what her fix is? I'll just go at noon. Like that's the best she had. I've had 5 husbands. My life's a wreck. I'm an outcast from society. My Band-Aid for all of this is I'm just going to go at noon. That's all I got. That's all I have. It was the only answer she could come up with. No wonder that offer of eternal water, man, that got her attention. See, because only God can fix what sin has broken. Now, I want you to check this out. She just got through saying, I know that the Messiah is coming, right? Verse 26, Jesus saith unto her, I that speak unto thee am he.
And this is the big reveal, right? This is the moment in like the theater where something happens on screen that's just so drastic that there's this like audible gasp that sucks all the air out of the room. I mean, that's what's taking place here. She goes, I'm broken. I keep having to come to this well, and it reminds me of my shame, but I know one day God's going to come and he's going to fix this brokenness. And Jesus goes, I'm him. I'm him. I mean, how awesome is that? But this story now transitions, and it is in these verses that I think we can see ourselves almost as though we're looking in a mirror. Verse 27, upon this came his disciples, and they marveled. They were kind of surprised that he talked with this woman. And yet no man said, what seekest thou, or why talkest thou with her? The woman then left her water pot, and he went her way into the city, and saith unto men, come see a man which told me all things that ever I did. Is not this the Christ? Question. Did Jesus actually tell this woman everything she'd ever done in her life? No. This is hyperbole. But you know what it communicates? You spend time with Jesus, you're going to walk away realizing he knows everything about you. That you don't have anything hidden from him. And that's what she's saying. She's saying, listen, I spoke to this man for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. He told me he knows everything about me. I have no secrets in front of him. I'm convinced of that he knows me. Verse 30, then they, talking about the men, they went out of the city and they came unto him. And in the meanwhile, his disciples prayed him, saying, Master, eat. But he said unto them, I have meat to eat that you know not of. And therefore that said the disciples one to another, hath any man brought him aught to eat? Now, this is pretty funny, right? Because the disciples have been gone this entire time into town, right? You're talking about 12 men, and they walk into the marketplace, and they're gonna have to begin engaging in conversation. There's no Wegmans, so you walk over to a vendor. So let's say they walk in, they walk over to the hummus vendor, right? And you can tell like the hummus is it's crusty, it's kind of been out for a couple days. So they talk with him a little bit, they move on. They're like, just not kind of looking a little gross. So they walk over to another hummus vendor. Things are looking a little bit good. So Judas comes over. He's got the purse, right? So he opens up the purse and he begins to pay some money. Well, Matthew's a tax collector. The dude's a financial guy. So he walks up. He's like, whoa. I think you're paying a little too much here, right? So they haggle a little bit. They come to a good price, and they buy some hummus. Well, then they go over and they go to buy some flatbread. And the first guy that they come to, same kind of thing. It's around noon. This dude's flatbread, it's like a Frisbee, right? You can break it. So that's a no-go. Well, then they go over to another flatbread vendor, and this guy seems he seems like legit, right? So they're talking with him. Well, then maybe John comes over, and John's like, hey, listen, guys, there's a flatbread vendor over here. It's absolutely the best flatbread you've ever had in your life. I mean, just hands down. Thomas comes in. He's like, I'm a little doubtful about that. I don't know if that's actually going to be the case or not. So they go back and forth with the flatbread guy, and they buy some flatbread, and then they go and they buy some olives, right? And this is, by the way, this is standard. You go in the Middle East now. This is breakfast, lunch, dinner. They have these things all the time. So now they go and they haggle a little bit over some olive oil. This woman's got some olive oil. It's beautiful golden color. So they purchase some olive oil, and then the guy right next to her, it's a family business, so they're selling olives as well, and they buy some olives. Peter and John make their way over to the fish, right? That's what they did. So they're inspecting the fish, and they're like, this is a little skanky. Like this fish has been out for quite a while. And Luke, he's a doctor, so he's watching this little kid. The kid's eating some of the fish. He's like, you're not going to want to eat that. That's not, you don't want to put that away. So they go back and forth, and they buy some fish, and they're inspecting it because that's what they do. And they're working out to get some good food, and they want to get it at a really good price. So then they gather the food, right? So they got this bag of food, and they probably went in a bag, right? But they got this bag of food, and so they're walking back up to Jesus, and they see him talking with a woman. So, Peter, he's the mouthiest one. He's like, what in the world is going on up here? They don't say it to Jesus, but, it's kind of going on in their minds and their hearts. But as they get closer, the woman tears back down the hill. So that weird event just got way weirder because now Jesus is just sitting there by himself. Well, anyway, so they're like, their whole mission, remember, was to go into the city and to buy food. So Peter, again, he's the spokesperson. He pops up. He's like, Jesus, you're not going to believe what we came across. Man, this guy had some olives. They're awesome. They're absolutely beautiful. You should see this olive oil. We used coupons. You'll be so proud, right? So he's got all this food, and Jesus goes, I have meat to eat that you know not of. And at that moment, Peter's like, You kidding me? Like, after all this time that we spent at this market, and somebody brought him a sandwich. Like, you got to be kidding me. Right? Like he's blown away by this. But then Jesus explains, verse 34, Jesus said to him, my meat is to do the will of him that sent me and to finish his work. Say not ye that there are 4 months and then cometh harvest. Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white already to harvest. Now, if you're standing with somebody and they say, look up, are you going to go, oh, that's metaphorical? Yeah, no, you're going to go, oh, okay, so you'll look up, right? Do you know what they saw? Now, you need to imagine this with me. They saw the city emptying out, right? Like they see all the people pouring out of this city coming to Jesus. And you know what else they saw? They saw the man that was selling them hummus. They saw the guy that was selling them fish that they'd spoken to. They saw both people that were selling flatbread, the guy that had one that was like a hard pancake and the other guy. And maybe they noticed a little boy with his dog that they'd seen almost run them over in the marketplace. And so they recognized these people. Jesus says, herein is that saying true, one soweth, another reapeth. Look at this next verse. I sent you to reap that whereon you bestowed no labor. See, Jesus went into this city. The disciples went into the city sent by Jesus to get food. They met all kinds of people. They spoke to many of them, and yet the disciples now see this scene unfold where they're coming to Christ, and the disciples recognize we spoke to these people and we didn't do anything. And in my mind, maybe they're going, well, how are we supposed to know? Like we got sent on a grocery trip, right? I mean, we walk in and we're talking to these people. I mean, like, why would we think that we should say, oh, and by the way, the Savior of the world is outside your gates? Why would we know to say that? Why would we think to have mentioned it? You know what happened? They walked into Wegmans thinking, I'm just here for groceries. And they missed the point that ministry life is 24/7 living. They walked into Walmart thinking, I got to get some bread, I got to get some deodorant, and I got to get my wife's prescription. And man, with their heads down, right? Blinders on, passing people constantly throughout their day, and they did nothing. But you see, Jesus walked all the way to Samaria to sit by a well, knowing completely in his mind and heart that he was there for more than just water. The disciples went into the city, but man, they had their switch flipped to off duty. And I think we ought to ask ourselves, how do we view our jobs? How do we view our workplace? How do we view school or that shopping trip that we're going on? Oh yeah, but you don't understand, man. I got things I got to get done. I got a schedule. I can't just listen. Ministry is inconvenient at times. It demands a real understanding of what is most important. Listen, there is no shortage of hurting people who are in need of compassion and the truth of Christ. What there is a shortage of is Christians that view and understand that ministry is a lifestyle. There's a shortage of that. Let's pray. With heads bowed and eyes closed, I want to simply ask, how do you view your Christian life? And I don't mean like philosophically, right? This isn't an essay. This is when you wake up on Monday and you look at your plans. You look at the things that you have to do and you recognize all the people that you're going to interact with. Is your walk with Christ, is that something in your heart and soul that is a regular, everyday ministry life? Is that something that in our hearts and in our minds that we recognize that, listen, this is why I'm here? That there are people sitting by wells and walking through life that are hurting, that are in pain. They're battling and they're struggling. And what am I doing about that? Or maybe you'd say this, listen, this Christian life, I know that I'm not a believer. I know that I'm not a Christian. There's never been a time in my life where I've placed my faith and my trust in him. Listen, this is your at the well moment where Jesus has offered truth through his word. Said, look, there's no end to pain and suffering in this life apart from Jesus Christ. There's no answer. It's just changing something as a cheap Band-Aid. This woman, she's got all kinds of pain and heartache in her heart. And you know what her answer was? I'll just go to the well at a different time. Listen, for so many people in this world, instead of getting at the core of what's really going on in their heart, that issue that Christ wants to deal with, we just propose cheap fixes that in our heart of hearts, man, we know it's not really working. It's just, we're just limping along. Can I say this? And maybe the gospel has made you uncomfortable. Listen, as I mentioned, that's okay. Because what the gospel does is it shines a light on things that I'm telling you, at one point in your life, you'll look back on and go, man, I can't believe I held on to that stuff. I can't believe that I clung to those things so tightly. Because when I finally placed my faith on Jesus Christ, I look back and I don't even recognize that person anymore. So maybe for you today is that moment where you need to come forward and you need to say, listen, I need Christ. I need Christ. Let's pray. And as I say amen, I'll ask that you stand to your feet. The front up here will be open if you'd like to come and pray. If you would like to come speak to me, I'll be to the side. Or if you'd like to just stand and worship and praise God. But do business with God this morning as we round down this service. Lord, we thank you so much for your word. We thank you for your example. And Lord, it is humbling for us to see ourselves in your disciples, walking through a marketplace, dealing with people, men, women, children, and bringing their sack lunch back to you, never having given thought that, oh yeah, the Savior of the universe is right outside their gate and we could have said something. Lord, may our lives be characterized by ministry. And Lord, for those in here this morning that would say, you know what, I don't know Jesus. I mean, I've heard of him. I know some stories, but I don't really know him. God, may today be that day of salvation where, Lord, you open their heart and they say yes to you, God, and their life is changed forever. God, may today be the day of salvation for someone in here this morning, for it's in your name we ask. Amen.
Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you, Lord. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me.
Amen. Thank you, students. You guys may be seated. Our church has a big heart for missions. And one of the things we do is once a month we take an offering that just goes to missions. None of this money touches our ministries. This goes out to accomplish the goal of evangelism in the entire world. So ushers, if you guys would come, we'll pray and then direct your attention to the screens following that and see a little bit about our missions program. Father, we're thankful for this day you've given us. Thankful for the beautiful morning we've had so far. Lord, allow us to be able to give to accomplish your goal of the mission to evangelize in the entire world. In Jesus' name, amen.
Hey, I'm Miguel.
And I'm Ashley.
Welcome to First Bible.
We're glad you're with us today.
Here are a few things we want you to know.
America is a nation of more. More money, more fame, more stuff. But what we really need is more prayer. Join us on May 2nd at 6:30 as we gather together to seek the face of God on behalf of our nation.
If you've trusted in Christ but never been baptized, you have an opportunity to make it happen on May 5th. Sign up for our baptism celebration online at our events page, or you can call the church office for more information.
On May 4th, we have a chance to make a huge difference in our community by lacing up our shoes and participating in the annual Walk for Life. Please stop by our Compass Care display table in our commons for more information.
North Star Christian Academy is raising funds to help produce their very own worship album called Restored. Students participating in the project have a table in the commons. Please consider supporting this project by purchasing a t-shirt. The proceeds go towards making this dream a reality. Thank you for joining us for our student-led service.
If you are one of our guests, please make sure you stop by one of our new Here kiosks so we can give you a free gift. God bless you.
Have a great week.
All right, thank you all. Today is just a reminder, today is the last day to sign up for the Compass Care Walk for Life. So if you've not yet done that, you want to do that, today is the last day to do that. Couples Connections this evening at 6 p.m. We would love to see you there. God bless. You guys are dismissed.